Wow. Over an hour later, this first mount is out. Welcome back, everybody. Day 7 of the project truck. Today, first order of business, and I'm not going to put this off any longer, is to try to get these motor mounts pulled, because those are the ones for the V6, and you can see that the mount is offset from the frame. The V8 mounts bolt into that portion right there where the bracket is. So need to pull those off so we can get the proper ones on. Then, well, there really is no then, because I'm not even going to think further than that. This is going to be could be a royal pain. Left side one, not too bad. The problem is that you've got bolts here, but there's nuts on the back side underneath the cradle, and they're blocked by the lower control arm for the suspension. The book way to do that is to pull the lower control arm so you have unfettered access to them, but man, that's like 2 hours of work just to get into those. Most people I've seen, and I'm going to try myself, have just left them in place and used whatever they could, a wrench, swivel sockets, wobbles, whatever, to snake their way up to the bolt, hold it in place while the nut, hold it in place while they take the bolt out. So that's what we're going to attempt to do first before we go any further. If it comes to it, we'll drop the arm, but I don't think it's going to be an issue on the left. And on the right, the upside is that these lower two bolts are the only two that are reused, and not saying the bolts have to be reused, but the mounting location has to be reused. But the V8 mount, if you see here, there are 2 bolts on this bracket, but over here you see that little access hole right there. The V8 mount only uses 1 bolt at the top. So if worse comes to worse, I can cut those 2 bolts off and then just have to deal with putting the 1 back in for the V8 mount. And again, it may come to that. So I'm going to go ahead and reposition, get a light down underneath, and I'll give you a view of what we're trying to do here. Okay, so we're under the truck now on the driver's side. Get a light up here. Hard to do. You see those 2 bolts right there, or nuts, those are what we're trying to get at. Not too bad, right? They're kind of right underneath your eye line here. But if you look back up there, there are 2 bolts back up over the top of this round mount. Those are the 2 that are on this side, going to be the hardest and maybe impossible on the other side. So I'm going to start with this side first, because I think it'll have the least problem getting them out, and then we'll tackle the right side. And if it does come to it, if I can't even cut them off, I'll just go ahead and pull that lower control arm. But the reason I didn't want to do that is because I'm going to drop the suspension on this truck and do like a 3, 4, or 5, 6 drop front to back, and that requires replacing the knuckle and spring. And if I did that, I'd have to pull that control arm anyway, and I'll end up doing it twice. So that was kind of the mindset behind not doing it right now, because I didn't want to have to do the same job twice. But it is what it is, and in this situation, you just got to embrace the suck. Get in there and do what you can to get moving forward. So that's what I'm going to do now. Go ahead and get the tools and try to get this stuff done. Wow. Over an hour later, this first mount is out. It was every bit the pain in the blank that I was led to believe. Various tools, different setups, mostly extensions, wobbles. They're 15mm bolts and nuts. And you just got to work them up into that frame section until they get held. You can hold the nut and then figure out a way. If you're by yourself, it's worse, but you just figure out a way to use a ratchet wrench or the impact and use 2 hands to take it out. That was true for these 4. Then there were these 2 on the back side. This one I could get at in the same manner as these 4 with the extension and a ratchet wrench or an impact. But this one, it's higher up in the frame, around a blind corner, cannot see the nut, and I just went medieval on it. I got the BFH out, beat the mount away from the frame far enough that I could slide Sawzall in between it and the frame, and went to town and just chopped that nut off. What the hell, right? It's not going back on, so who cares what it looks like. But that was one. And I'll be honest, I don't know if I have the gumption or the strength to go after the second one in the same manner, so I may just be going to get my angle grinder and just cut that frame mount off and just be done with it. That's just, it's really ridiculous. I mean, a part of me wants to be a man and go in there and do that, but part of me wants to be a smarter man and save my energy and just use tools. So I'm going to chill for a bit, decide how I'm going to attack this one, and we'll see how that one turns out too. Alright, I'm back at it. Took a little break. I decided to go ahead and just cut these bolts off with the angle grinder. Man's best friend. And so I got these first two, the heads cut off, and then I pie cut them and just knocked them out with another bolt, used that as a drift, just punched them through. So I got to get these two up here, and I don't know if I'm going to grind the two on the side off or just cut this mount vertically right beside the bracket right there and just pull it off and leave that stuff, leave the rest of it in place. But anyway, I thought it'd be nice to go ahead and throw in some gratuitous spark footage, little fire ASMR for you. So once we get to work on this, enjoy the show. Okay, got the 4 bolts out. Didn't burn anything down except my leg, but I wasn't worried about my leg. I've still got these, well, I guess it's just this bolt on this mount. It's a little different than the other side. There's only one bolt right here, but that bolt is right behind a brake line. So getting an angle on that mug to cut it is going to be a little difficult. I may have to slice the mount back up here and just pull it off and leave this piece on until I get that done. But anyway, yeah, for my money, guys, if you're doing this, at least on the passenger side, cutting these bolts off, just buying new bolts and dealing with the 3 you have to put back in to get the new mount in is the way to go. It's loud, hot, messy, but it's still factors of 10 easier than trying to take them out through the frame. So anyway, I'm going to cut the rest of this mount off. Well, it's done. It's out. You can see I got those 4 bolts cut off, punched out. Then there's one bolt back there by that brake line that I didn't want to cut off the wheel because it was too close to the brake line. So I just made some relief cuts in the bracket itself and then twisted it back and forth until it snapped. What a job. That's still, you know, that was work, but my God, it was still so much easier than trying to get it out from the bottom. So again, my advice is to just cut those bolts off, have some new ones ready for the new mount, and move on with your life. So, I mean, it's still going to be fun getting the new ones in because I still have to get underneath it and try to fish the bolt, the nut up, and then slowly twist the bolt in position until it catches on the teeth, hope it doesn't cross thread, and then get those tightened down. But at least this is half as bad as it could have been, just cutting it off instead of crawling underneath and trying to fish the nut and bolt. I'm tired again, hot, gonna take a break, so I'll see where the next part of this leads me. I may just try to get this left side one in today and then worry about the other one tomorrow.